apart from those jibes from Mr. Barnett?
Mr. Barnett always has a jibe in hand. I think everybody who knows him, he's actually promised me a nice big K.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Because he was trying to say that that wasn't Bill, but it was for branded.
Or for
those of us who
Banyan.
know Bill knows that's a B for Bill.
Good.
So
Okay, great. Okay, we've got about 20 minutes. So let's get cracking.
Yep.
Hospitality. So obviously your career didn't start with hospitality. You sort of came through. Why hospitality to begin with? Let's just get some context into the story.
that's not going to take. That's going to take longer than that. Well, I mean, a very short answer. Everything I've done in my life is by accident. Accident, hopefully with some purpose. And hospitality was totally by accident. Prior to that, I had been, as Bill mentioned, a journalist, and I gave that up because I went to jail twice for being a journalist.
I missed that part out.
And then I went into oil exploration.
See.
I got out of that because I nearly bankrupted my father, and he wouldn't let me resign until I paid him back. So I was trying to pay him back and sort of licking my wounds. And it was in 1985, I came with my brother and my wife to Phuket. And the airport was like, it was hopeless. We ended up buying a piece of land because I never went to business school and never heard of the word due diligence. And now we have Laguna Phuket. So that's the short part of it. That was not actually hospitality. We actually got Sheraton to manage our first few hotels, Dusit and Sheraton. And the last piece of land that we had no beach. And everybody who's in hospitality is smart enough to know you don't build a beach resort without a piece of land without a beach. But I didn't know. And we built Banyan Tree. And that's my foray into hospitality through a series of mistakes.
No, it's good. Well, we're going to get back to this, some of those mistakes and learnings as we go forward. But your hospitality focus was for a number of years, 20, 30 years, before you really got into branded residences. So why did you get into branded residences?
Very simple answer. You don't have much money. You try to sell to people some of what you build so that you can find the money to build the rest of your hotel. And I think when you ask that question, I think when you talked about the evolution of branded residences, I think on a more serious note, branded residences has gone through a number of phases. In the very beginning, and that probably explains why, for some odd reason, we're probably number 642 in the world in terms of size of hotels as a hotel company, but we're number 4 in the world in terms of branded residences because we're the poorest in the world probably. But now the big guys like our friends in Accor have cottoned on to all of this, and so they're all now moving into branded residences. But I think the first phase of branded residences started because people wanted to build hotels, and they figured out that, well, if I can sell some units to some poor unsuspecting investors, it will cost me less to own the hotel. And for a long time, it was like that. And for a long time, the big operators like Marriott and Accor would not actually take on a management contract if there were branded residences. And we know this because we've talked to so many people who came to look for us because the big guys didn't want them. Because for the big hospitality operators, having to deal with owners and all that was just a hassle. They just wanted pure hotel rooms. So that was the first phase, and that's how we got into it. And of course, it started to get more and more popular, partly and ironically with Airbnb, not really you would have thought would be a threat to branded residences, but with more and more people in the world beginning to realize that owning a holiday home and having it rented out in the beginning by Airbnb and not by the hotel operator, it was actually a good thing to do. So people got more and more into holiday homes. And for us, the second phase started when we would build a branded residence in order to own a hotel as a freebie. So you can see the shift there. Branded residences became more and more important. Then I think the third phase now that we're seeing is branded residences on their own without a hospitality component is actually now becoming a very big thing. And that's actually overtaking other branded residences, which for the life of me, I've never understood why people would have, I'm going to insult probably some people here who are brokers for some of these brands, but I could never understand why, to the same extent that I wouldn't go and buy a banyan tree cologne or a banyan tree haute couture dress. I've never understood why somebody would want to stay in a Ferrari branded residence or in a Cartier residence. And I've never understood the association with that. But these brands, fashion brands, underwear brands, a Calvin Klein residence, I mean, all these brands started to be the ones that would brand a residence. And the hospitality guys were the guys who were slowest to the scene. But now I think that's going to be changed, because I think once you get a really reputable hospitality operator moving into what is its logical adjacent space, which is residences and essentially their service apartments and so on, it's going to be very challenging for somebody who's trying to sell, you know, an Armani residence, which they did in Dubai simply because there's also Armani Casa, but it's not going to work. So I think the third phase, you're seeing the hospitality operators coming in and wiping out everybody else.
You've not gone down the typical route. I mean, you obviously the equity in the Banyan Tree brand is considerable and has been built up over many years. But you've become a developer yourselves. You become a real estate developer.
You mean ourselves?
That's right.
Yeah, of course.
Banyan Group, rather than just collecting royalties
of course.
management fees. So how's that gone? That's a big
That's
change.
gone so well, but I'm the first to admit that everything happens by accident. Good things, bad things. COVID nearly killed us. We came out of COVID thinking it was going to be a long road to recovery, and by accident, a country very far away invades another country. We have nothing to do with it, and now, for some odd reason, that country's countrymen are all going into Phuket.
That's right.
They haven't gone into Vietnam, which was their closest compatriot before. They haven't gone into Bali in a big sense. For some odd reason, Russians love Phuket. And Ukrainians too, by the way. So you've got Ukrainians and Russians having a great time in Laguna Phuket, and we're just riding that wave. It's been, I think, 4 to 5 times more property sales in the last 2 years for us.
So tell us. So when you bought that piece of land in Phuket, considerable piece of land, you worked on a hospitality play, and that hospitality play was obviously developed with through real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And how many units do you have on that?
Well, there's only, I mean, the number of, if you look at keys, although a branded residence a unit is larger than a hotel room, but if you just look at number of keys, the number of keys we have in branded residences in Phuket today is probably 3 times more than hotels. And the nice thing about branded residences is that, you know, people continue to buy. You can only build that many hotels. We are likely to have, well, if you know the Thai word for a lot of local council is Obator. So we're thinking about declaring our own township.
Okay, cool.
No, that's a joke, because I don't think that
No.
Phuket authorities would like it. But we've got a lot of land. We've got so much land left that we can probably do another 10, 15,000 units if we wanted to.
Wow. So that's really worked in as a destination in Laguna Phuket, for example, in a sizable destination. What about in some of the other areas? Because you obviously developed in Indonesia, in Bintang.
Yeah, we've got Indonesia, we've got Vietnam.
Bangkok.
I think one of the lessons I've learned, and it seems simple because it's academically obvious, but until you've really experientially validated it, you don't really realize how powerful it is. And that's the issue of the unique climate that you have on the Andaman coast. And essentially, I mean, it seems really simplistic, and I should have known it long ago, but I've only learned it by living this long. And that is that the people who buy properties and the people who are tourists generally are from what I would call the global north, whether it be Russia, China, Korea, or America or Europe. They're from temperate countries. And people from temperate countries during their winters like to come to places that are dry and warm. If you look at the entire eastern side of Southeast Asia, from Hainan Island, which is the southernmost part of China, to all of Vietnam, where we have properties, down to the eastern coast of Thailand, to Samui, and to Bali. They're all wet and cold in the winter. The only part of Southeast Asia which is dry, of course, is Burma, which is a bit of a dead loss right now, but the entire Andaman coast of Thailand. And so we're doubling down on Thailand because, frankly, anytime you want to go anywhere in winter and get dry weather, it's going to be Phuket and Khao Lak and then up the coast a little bit more. And below that, you get already to the Straits of Malacca where the waters are not so nice, or you get to Sumatra. The west coast of Sumatra is very beautiful, but it's really isolated. So to me, in the next 20 years, development is going to really boom on the Andaman coast of Thailand. And that's a simple fact. And it's self-serving, obviously, because we were lucky to have land there, but it's something we've observed because we do have properties in Lang Co in Vietnam, which is beautiful, but it's 15 degrees and raining in December.
Yeah, no good, no good. I mean, so looking forward, we heard from Jonathan, we heard from Bill, you know, this incredible growth of branded residences in this part of the world. What are some of the you know, the really big challenges to growth are we going to see over the next? I
think the challenge of growth is pretty obvious. Branded residences succeed against the rest of the competition in real estate, largely because real estate developers, and there are very big ones out there, never thought about having their own brand, right? All the big developers would usually put a different name because they wanted their properties to be unique. And they never thought about building a brand. When the big developers cotton on to the idea that a Banyan tree brand is nice or a core brand is nice and so on, they're going to spend a lot of money developing their own brand.
Right.
So that's one thing that's going to happen. The second thing that's going to happen is that obviously branded residences only work when there's lots of unbranded residences. When everybody is branded, which they're going to do, there's going to be a clearing of the market, and there will be tons of poorly branded residences, but they'll be branded anyway. And there will be those that will survive because their quality is going to be higher. So I think right now we're at this initial phase where everybody wants to get a brand. It used to be much easier for the guys who are representing fragrances, watches, underwear, because the hospitality guys didn't want to get into it. Now we in hospitality are all into it. I think it's going to wipe out a lot of the rest. The big developers are now going to come along and say, well, I'm going to spend a few millions of dollars to get a branding agency, and whereas my company might be called KP Ho Real Estate, I'm going to develop a shiny thing called Diamond or whatever, and it's going to be Diamond branded residences everywhere. So they're going to come along. So over time, as the market matures, it will be very challenging, and there will be people pushed aside. But it's an interesting phenomenon, and while hospitality brands are still the flavor of the month, we're milking it for as much as we can.
Sure.
And I hope developers out there in the world, anybody who's a developer, I should probably be at Seahis instead. Anybody who's owner, don't develop your own brand. Go with a core, go with Mandarin Oriental, go with Banyan Tree, stick to the hotel guys.
Right. We've got time for one question from the audience. Does anyone want to ask a question? Eric. Oh, it's going to come to you, Eric. But no, yes, please.
Thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting. My name is Kwon. I want to know about your opinion of the Phuket outlook toward the future, since there has been a lot of big players coming into the game in Phuket, especially big developer from Bangkok. Do you think there will still be enough demand for the Phuket properties, including hotel and branded residence?
I think there are a lot of challenges to Phuket right now. If you talk about pure property development, the big developers from Phuket basically have not been selling so much to the foreign market because they never used to. They've always been selling to the Bangkok market. So you're already seeing an oversupply of the entry-level residences in Phuket that are not on the beach. These are usually priced from 5 to 10 million baht. They're quite accessible. The majority of the buyers are people from Bangkok or buying it as an investment. There's already an oversupply there. And I think the big developers have really made quite a bit of money in the Talang area in the last 2 years or so, and they might be moving on. In terms of Phuket as a destination, I think there's a lot of challenges. The infrastructure is not keeping pace with the demand. Anybody who's lived in Phuket or visited Phuket in the past compared to now will find that it takes you 3 times longer to get from point A to B than it ever used to. There's other more serious infrastructural issues, electricity demand, waste treatment, sufficiency, even water. Those are beginning to put a strain on Phuket's infrastructure. And at the same time, because of over-tourism, the occasional talk about trying to reduce density in Phuket from people who would be ardent environmentalists and so on, that's all also coming up. In my view, and I've supported the governor of Phuket several times, I think the problem to Phuket is not going to be resolved until Phuket becomes a special administrative area, like Bangkok is, and like Pattaya is. Because right now, for those of you in the know, Phuket actually provides a huge part of the income in terms of taxes and so on to the Thai government, but it gets a drop in the bucket in terms of resources from the central government. If it were made into a special administrative zone, then it would get a much fairer allocation of national income. And until that's done, which I hope will be done eventually, like they did to Pattaya, I think Phuket is still going to have a challenge. But in the longer term, I think the whole of Phuket and greater Phuket, meaning the Andaman Coast, Khao Lak, and even extending to Krabi, I think that's still probably the most promising part of tourism and real estate development in Thailand for at least 5-10 years to come.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. KP Ho, Founder Executive Chairman of Banyan Group.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.